Welcome to Micro Metal Mondays. This week on Micro Metal Mondays, we are talking about Peace Sells by Whos Buying by Megadeth. This album was released through Capitol Records on September 19th, 1986. It was initially funded by Combat Records, but it was eventually bought. The rights to the album was bought before it was released by Capitol Records, and then released under Capitol Records after it being remixed. The lineup for this album is quite different to the future lineup and current lineup. There's been, I believe, 30 members of Megadeth at this stage. I could be wrong about that. It could be around 20. I'd say somewhere between 20 and 30. It's a much different lineup than the one we had for our previous album that we done with Megadeth. Rust in Peace. We have still Dave Mustaine on rhythm guitar and vocals. We still have Dave Ellefson on bass. He lays down some tremendous bass work on this album. We have Gar Samuelson on drums. He also puts in a great effort on this album. With everyone's on top for this album. This is a fantastic album. And then we have Chris Poland on lead guitar. Now, Chris Poland, we'll start with him. His style, he's very jazz influenced. You can very much hear it when he's soloing. It's very, very weird solos. And I mean weird in the best possible way. I mean, they're just so out there. And they are, as a guitarist, I can say this, they are so hard to learn and recreate well because of his jazz influences. He really holds them on his sleeve. Similarly enough with Gar Samuelson, his drumming is absolutely phenomenal on this album. As I'm going to end up repeating myself, but everyone on this album is bringing their A game. It's absolutely balls to the wall from start to finish. This album is unbelievable. A lot of very dark imagery on this album, very much what you would consider to be, might you say, stereotypical heavy metal subjects, like the occult and demon worship and summoning the devil and serial killers and so on and so forth. But there are also some tracks that divert from that. The opening track, "Wake Up Dead," is actually about the lead singer cheating on his wife and making sure she doesn't find out. The third track, the title track off this album, "Peace Sells," is all about how people are actually really influenced by this stereotype of metalheads, that they don't that they don't partake in society, yet they actually do. And it's a big call for for peace, and how it sells. But who is buying? Interestingly enough, the thing I love about Megadeth as a band going through the years is that you can kind of track what their beliefs are at the time. Dave Mustaine, the lead singer and writer of the band, grew up in a very, very fundamentalist Christian household, and he broke away from that, and you can see his rebellion here. He writes a lot about Satan in this album, and then later on you'll find he, as most Americans do, they become born again, and you can find him on later albums talking about God and how the government are infecting children with sex and war and violence and so on, which is what I find fascinating about the band. You can go from listening to them talking about how you can summon a demon to kill someone for you, and then you can listen to an album that came out 2 or 3 years ago about how the government are anti-church, something like that. It's tremendous. This album is absolutely phenomenal. Please give it a listen. I implore anyone who hasn't heard this album, please go and listen to this album.